Welcome back to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show. Thanks for joining us for Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show. I am your host, Craig L. Hayes. We're here with Ken Johnson for episode number 2 here on this very lovely day in Las Vegas on the 13th of July, 2026. And
Make that August,
what did I say?
July.
It's August. Oh, well, I already got that wrong. I'll edit that out later. No, I won't. I'll just leave it there to show that I do keep on going. We make mistakes. We just keep trudging right through them. We don't stop. So, anyhow, Ken, we got to your high school years, graduated from high school and such. And what did you do after high school? What was your choice of career or future, I would say?
I couldn't wait to leave Utah. Minimum wage was $1.25. I was making $10 a day while I was working on the farm. I had a 8-track tape fetish that was insatiable. So when I'd get paid for working on the farm, I'd go across the county to Richfield, and it was called Olin's Electronics Store, and I'd come out with all the 8-track tapes that I could buy, and then I never had a penny in my pocket after I left there. So I couldn't wait to get to Vegas and make a little bit of money. Plus, what I call it, Elsinore, I call it skunk collar nowadays. It was cold there all the time. I couldn't wait to get away from the snow. Just come to Vegas where it's nice and warm. We'd come down here during the summer or at Christmas time to spend time with my sister and her family. It was so wonderful. Once you left St. George, from there on out, you didn't need a coat. I was tickled to death to come to Vegas. I just couldn't wait to live here permanently. So I graduated on a Friday night, and I was in Vegas by midday Saturday.
Wow. You literally just hit the road, gone.
Yes. Hit the road and never looked back. In fact, I told my mother, I said, I'll never be back here. I just got where I hated the cold weather and the low wages so bad. Just living a life of poverty. I hated that.
Yeah. Understandable. So you came to town, and what year was that when you hit Vegas?
68. June of 68.
June of 68. And what'd you go into? I mean, what was
My brother-in-law had a job for me. On St. Louis and Boulder Highway, there was a Gulf station. So when I come down here, I immediately went to work there, which I got a whooping raise went from $1.25 in Utah to $1.50 here an hour. And being 18 years old, naturally I'd come in and pump gas, and I was the janitor. I had to clean the bays, the restrooms, the pump, everything. I basically worked from 3 o'clock until 11 o'clock every night and closed up. And the only problem I had there is the guy was from Delta, Utah, and all he wanted to do is, since we were on Boulder Highway, is catch the tourists going through, sell them some tires, shocks, fan clutch, anything that could be done quickly, whether they needed it or not. And I had a problem with that, so I only did that for a few months. And then as I was going to church, I met up with what they call the Ficklin family. You've probably heard of them.
I know them, yep.
Royce and Hennessy Ficklin.
Yep.
They worked at a place called Southern Hardware Distributors.
Yep.
And I went to work for them. And they had me driving, probably about a 3-ton truck, delivering hardware. And I totally loved that. I would go out around the lake, just all kinds of different places. The town is pretty small. It was about a 200,000 population then. Some of the Wonder Worlds were just starting to get going. So we delivered to them, delivered to Vegas Village, all of those. So I worked there for quite a while until finally they changed hands. And then I left there. And I had actually been working part-time at Whitney's Texaco in the evenings. And when I left there, he told me he wanted to hire me full-time. So then I went to work for Lloyd Whitney full-time. And that was probably in 70, 71.
Okay.
And then never looked back.
So you were there almost 10 years before I showed up there.
Probably.
Yeah. I can't remember if it was 79 or 80 when I started, working, pumping gas, when they had full service.
Yes. But that's all we had was full service.
Well, I thought, okay, well, on one side there was a full service, and the other side over there was like pump your own, I thought.
When I
I can't
started,
remember,
when
yeah.
I started there, you had basically 4 rows of pumps, and that was all there was full serve. And you washed everybody's windows, you checked their oil, their tires, everybody that came in. And then I don't know how many years ago it was after that, a place over, behind one of the bars, I think they called it Gasomat, started with self-serve gas. So that kind of got everybody into wanting to save money. So we gradually went to one side of it was full serve, the pumps on one side, and the other side was self-serve, and it eventually ended up where we had 3 rows of self-serve and only 1 row of full serve. And basically it was mostly just the old people that used the full serve. Everybody else had kind of got into the self-serve. Yep. And that's probably about the time you and your brothers come along.
Yeah, and now you can't find anybody that does full serve anywhere.
Exactly.
It's all long gone in the past. And you mentioned a couple of places, Wonder World and Vegas Village. Now in Vegas, those were just grocery / department stores, before there was a Walmart per se. They were much smaller than the Walmarts that we have today, but even back then we had those type of places, Vegas Village and Wonder World. Yeah. You said that, and I was like, wow, I haven't heard those names in a long, long time.
But you remember them well.
Oh, remember them all well, yeah. Yeah, and even Southern Nevada Hardware or Southern Hardware.
Southern Hardware Distributors.
Yeah.
They were a wholesale hardware business. No retail, just wholesale.
Yeah, knew all the Ficklins really well.
They were good people,
Yep.
Really good people.
Yeah, so I didn't realize you'd worked there, and for those guys too.
Well, the problem with that is I think the Ficklins were part owner, and then a guy named Ed Feeney, and they finally decided to split up. And Ed had kind of an obnoxious son that, as Ed got old, he wanted to kind of take over the business. And I think he kind of drove the Ficklins out of it. So Royce went over. My understanding is he went over and started cleaning the churches, and he was actually getting paid for that. He'd go from church to church to.
Yeah, he was doing more than the cleaning. He was doing like the repairs and
I think he was. I think he was doing all the maintenance too.
New installs for the new sound systems or lights. He was basically just taking care of and upgrades. I should say
Right.
upgrades when they got into the satellite stuff, and he was installing that. And yeah, he went to work, I think, pretty much full time for the churches, going to all the buildings and doing that.
There
all
wasn't
the
that
time.
many church buildings back then.
Not then. Now, good grief, there's 100 and something of them, I'm sure. So.
And his brother Ennessy, I don't know whatever happened to him, but
Yeah, I don't
they had
remember.
really good kids, just an awesome family.
Yeah, we went to school with Dale and Don. They were our age group, my brother and I. And so that's yeah, ghosts of the past. Gee,
Yes.
wow. So you worked for a couple of years for driving truck and working part time at the
Yes.
at Whitney. What did Whitney see in you that he decided to give you a full time gig there at his Texaco?
You know, what he saw was a farm boy that had farm boy ethics. It was pretty cool. I don't know if you remember the Goobler family.
Yeah.
Daryl Goobler and his son
yeah.
Brent. Brent worked there also. Daryl come up to me one day. He oversaw the mechanics of Greyhound buses. And he asked me, he says, "You haven't got any of your friends from back on the farm that want to come out here and go to work, do you?" What he was saying is he wanted that farm boy mentality or work ethics mentality.
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I don't." But that's what they wanted. You know, We weren't necessarily very smart, but we were definitely hard workers. That's what we've been taught there. So
Well, yeah. And working as a mechanic there at Whitney's Texaco, that's hard work. You were all over the place. What do you have? He had two working bays, right? And the third one was just
we turned into a
non-working.
smog bay later.
Yeah, but the two working bays, you always had somebody in there work. Those lifts were going up and down all day when we were there, and we would help you once in a while on things that when it got slow out on the pump and give you a hand. But yeah, we were there doing the same thing you had done at the other place. Clean up, spit shine the place up, get it ready for you guys for the next day, and clean up all the tools and put them away, and because
Make it look pretty for the next day.
yeah, you guys worked hard, but you didn't put anything away.
That's why we paid you the big bucks.
Yeah, big bucks, $3
Well,
an hour, whatever it was. Yeah.
When I went to work for Lloyd, I had 2 years of auto mechanics in high school. We had in Richfield, they had a trade tech, and we would actually leave about an hour and a half early to go over to Richfield, put in 2 hours there, and then they would bus us back to our school. So I had 2 years of auto mechanics, but that was all the mechanical skill I had. So it didn't take me long to find out that I really wasn't much of a mechanic. Even though I thought I was, I found out I wasn't. So I had to kind of learn as I went. Plus, I took some classes out of community college, and then we had a place called B&C Auto Parts that sold auto parts, and they would run air conditioning classes and stuff like that, and spent a lot of time doing all of that to get where I could at least work on the gas station repairs. We stayed away from the big heavy duty stuff. We left that for the dealers, and we had a good crew there.
Yeah, but back then you could you could do almost everything on a car except for, you didn't want to get into the rebuilds or something, rebuild an engine or a transmission. But, points, plugs, condensers, oil change, that's all straightforward. You can't do any of that now.
Exactly.
These cars today, you can't even get under the hood and try to touch them, unless you have a computer degree.
Exactly.
But at the same time, these guys now just plug the car into a computer, and it tells you exactly what's going right and wrong, and here's what's broken on this, and here's it's mechanics just go, okay, computer telling me to go over here and fix this.
Well, let me give you an example. Now that I got old, my knees are bad, my eyes are bad. My truck is a 91 GMC, and I had a problem with it. I'd been dealing with, once I got where I quit working on my own cars, I had a shop I dealt with. But the guy was in his 70s. He finally sold the place, bought a $240,000 motorhome, said he's going to cruise the United States with it. He sold it to some other guy, and I was dealing with him. Anyway, I was having a problem with what I figured was the electrical on it. So I took it down to this place. Make a long story short, I told him I wanted to do a lube oil and filter and whatever it needed to fix this electrical problem I had, which I told him I thought it was electrical. To make a long story short, it spent 27 days down there. They were throwing parts at it left and right. I went in there to pick it up one day, and he says, well, I think it's the fuel pump. And I said, well, I don't think so. I says, because it misses like an electrical miss. And he says, well, let me tell you what, let me put a fuel pump on it, and if that doesn't do it, I won't charge you for it. So the bottom line is that didn't fix it. So anyway, he finally tells me, he says, I don't have anybody that knows how to work on a vehicle that's that old, being a 91.
Mm-hmm.
So he brought a guy in from his other shop. He couldn't fix it either. So I finally went and got it, picked it up. They had run up a $1,500 and some bill on it. I brought it home. I called the city of North Las Vegas, the supervisor that I had after I left. I said, hey, where would you suggest I take it? And he says, we got this young kid that you worked with, John. He says, he just retired. He's got nothing to do. Why don't you see if something he wants to play with? He came over. He didn't have a scanner to test the computer with, but he had a little key. And what you do is you take that key and you touch point A to point B, and it will flash trouble codes on your dash. It flashed the codes on there. He looked on his phone, looked up the codes. It said it was an HEI module, which I had initially told the other shop that's what I thought the problem was. I even happened to have one that I had bought years ago just to keep for a spare when the time came that I needed, since I had changed it a couple of times myself. He spent 2 hours putting it in. It worked like a champ. Anyway, that was the end of the problem. Truck's been great ever since.
Wow.
But the new guys don't know how to work on a 35-year-old truck.
Well, that's yeah. If you're to give these guys today, plugs, points, condensers, a vacuum gauge, the whole 9 yards, they'd look at it and go, "What is this
that?
for?
Yeah, exactly.
What does this do?"
Exactly.
It's like you and I could slap them in there real quick and dial them in there, get a dwell meter, the whole nine. There you go, boom, you're off and running, buddy. Yeah.
Well, when my knees and my eyes went bad, I gave up on that stuff and finally started being a customer as opposed to the mechanic. And
Yeah, I take mine to somebody to fix everything on it anymore. I don't get under a car or climb into the engine. And I have an '08 Tundra, and yeah, I have people work on that one. No. So, how long were you at Whitney's Texaco?
26 years.
26 years. Whoa. That's a good run.
Yes.
And everything starts changing. And I remember you left because I think you went over to, you said City of North Las Vegas or something, started working on cars there or something? Or?
Yeah, it got where the money wasn't very good there. I mean, Texaco was terrible. Whitney would sign a 3-year contract. When they'd renew the contract, the first year his rent would go up $300. The second year was $300. The next year was $600. So every 3 years he was raising it $1,200, and it finally got where he couldn't hardly even pay the guys. So I felt that I wasn't getting paid for all the work I was doing. So I left there, went for about, well, I told him when I left, I says, I'd like to draw unemployment until I can find a job. And I had told my wife, I says, when I hit 45 years old or when the money's no longer there, I'm going to go get a job with better retirement. And it just so happened both of them happened at the same time. So I left there, spent 5 months on unemployment, finally went out and found 2 regular jobs in one day, Desert GMC and Godin Ford. Took the GMC job because I liked them GMCs better than Fords. Spent just a few months there, and then my good old buddy Eddie Martinez, he had been working for the City of North Las Vegas, and he had been bringing in some of their upper management vehicles for us to work on. So I got an interview with them, and when I went in for that, I found out that I knew almost all the guys there. Instead of talking about what skills I had for the job, we were talking about what Eddie is doing now that he's retired. Anyway, I got the job. I spent 9 months working in the utilities department, which I thought that a shovel was strictly a farm implement. I found out in the utilities department in the cities, they use shovels also. So I decided that ain't the job for me. So as soon as the job in the mechanics area came open in the garage, I applied for that. And since it was already in the system, I got it, and I spent 15 years there. And I had a blast. That was the most fun I ever had, and good people and a good place to work.
Now, Eddie Martinez, was he the guy who used to come in and do some work there every
Yes.
so often? And we're on different projects, you guys. I don't remember him.
Yes,
he had the white truck with like the silver camper or the
63
Shell or something.
63 GMC truck.
Okay, that's
Yes.
him. Yeah, you said that name, and I'm like, I know that name. And I had to think about it for a second. And
He lived up off Laguna, which is fairly close to where you
yeah,
lived.
it's up the street from us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a super guy. He just died a few years ago.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, his son died, then his wife died, and he was living with his daughter when he finally got dementia. and he finally passed a few years back. But what a wonderful guy.
Yeah, he could fix all kinds of stuff. He always did the weird stuff like installing, shift kits on transmissions or, just,
Well, he did the stuff we didn't want to do or didn't have the know-how to do.
yeah,
He was GM factory trained, so he was good.
yeah. 'Cause I think he worked on my brother's truck on a couple things on one of his vehicles. I'm not, as I remember, but wow, that's a name from the past. I hadn't heard that one in a long time.
Yeah, a good guy.
So then, I'm just gonna say I came over there and I started working the end of '79, early '80, and at Whitney's Texaco and pumping gas and doing all those things, and you gave me and Bobby Poole our nicknames. You like giving people nicknames because Ben DeYunker. How did Ben DeYunker get Mud? Did you give him that one too? Or?
No, one of his friends did. He had some
Okay.
fish, and I guess all his friends had nicknames, and he didn't. And he took his friends over to his house, and he's showing them these fish he got, and he says, "Now this particular fish here is a mudsucker." And one of the kids says, I think it was one of the Christensen kids. Remember the Christensens that lived over there?
I know Tony real well. Yeah, he was one of the younger guys.
I wasn't him. I can't remember the name, but they says, that's your nickname. From now on out, you're going to be known as a mudsucker. So I've still got him on my phone listed as Mud. And he liked it, so.
Yeah, that's all I ever call him. Anytime I ever say, "Hey, Mud," but yeah, mine was Bert and Bobby Poole was Ernie because I was the tall guy from Sesame Street and Bobby Poole was a short, little heavier guy, and so it was Bert and Ernie, and then I had him put on our name tags on our Texaco shirt. I had him go ahead and put Bert on there since. If you're going to call me that, I might as well just be known by that. So,
Well, that all stemmed from my daughter was the age where she spent her whole life watching Sesame Street. So when you got a 5-year-old kid watching, cartoons or Sesame Street, that's what you watch. So we sit and watched it, and somehow you and Bobby reminded me of Bert and Ernie. I can't put my finger on just what it was, but
the name stuck. And it didn't stick around a long time, but it stuck around for long enough to where it was for a few years, And had many nicknames. Some of them not very pleasant to say, but over the years from different people. But Bert and Ernie, and then I see. Lloyd's kid was Squirrel.
well, he earned that one. Squirrel was kind of a derogatory term, and he was about as squirrely as anybody you'd ever find.
And I don't remember Wagner, what his name was.
Twink.
Jeez.
They said that he earned that one also. They would take seminary in the morning. He had to stop at whatever store and get some Twinkies.
Oh.
That was his breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
So anything that was made by Dolly Madison, he was madly in love with. But he picked up the name Twink from that. So
There you go. Some people set their own name like that. And my little brother, I think he called him Wiley Coyote or something.
Lloyd gave him that name, and I don't know where it come from,
I
but
don't know either.
he just one day called him Wiley, and okay, so I like that better than Scott, so
Yeah.
we still call him
at
Wiley.
that time, he was going by Whitney. So I think instead of having two Whitneys at the place, he's decided he was going to be Wiley or something, I guess. I don't know.
Well, he accepted it and had no problem with it, so that's what he's still known to us,
Yep.
my wife and I.
Wiley and Bert and Ernie and lots of nicknames around that place. And it was a good place to work. The only thing I never liked doing was the U-Haul stuff.
None of us did.
Yeah. I know it made money for Lloyd and made him a good dollar, but boy, having to rent him out and hook him up and do all that stuff was What a nuisance that was.
Well, I had my 67 Chevy Nova, and whenever you get a solid wind there, if somebody hadn't blocked the tires on the trailers would be going across the yard. I parked my Nova over in front of on the corner, had a trailer come over and smack it on the front end. So I started parking it on the other side. A wind come up that somebody had forgot to put a hitch under the tire of a trailer. It got smacked on the left rear quarter panel. So obviously I hated U-Hauls also.
Yeah. All that kind of damage. Yeah, we've that's one job I can say I'd never cared doing. I didn't mind cleaning the bathrooms. I didn't mind, mopping and cleaning the place up at all. I thought that was all just kind of cool to do all that. But yeah, the U-Hauls, couldn't stand them. Well, Ken, that takes us to the end of episode number 2, believe it or not.
All right.
And here you thought we'd do like 10 minutes.
Another
We've
job
already
well
done
done.
50 minutes already.
Okay.
And we've only gotten to Whitney's Texaco, basically, and touched on a couple things.
I don't think it goes much further than that.
I think it does. We're going to talk about other things. It's not the end of this discussion. So we'll keep on going. We'll get another episode in, I'm sure.
All right.
All right, until we get back. Thank you for listening to Main Street, the Craig L. Hayes Show.